Today's video is about the Schulze family, a regular family from the small town of Drage in Lower Saxony, Germany. One day, the family vanished without a trace, which makes their case one of the most mysterious missing person cases of this decade. Since July 23, 2015, there hasn't been a sign of the Schulze family, which keeps everyone in the country of Germany on the edge of their seats. The Schulze family was living a happy life, or so it seemed. The father, Marco Schulze, had completed an apprenticeship in agriculture and met his future wife, Sylvia, in 2002 in Lüneburg. She brought a daughter from a previous relationship, named Sabine, into the marriage. Marco and Sylvia seemed happy, in love, and ready to start a life together. In 2003, the two had another daughter together, Miriam. In 2004, they built a house in the small town of Drage with its 4,000 residents. When the two tied the knot on November 1st, 2007, their life seemed complete. Marco Schulze was a good provider for his family. He worked at a chemical plant and had a side job as a truck driver on weekends. He also helped out at the riding stables every now and then in order to pay for his daughter's riding lessons. He was kind and a caring family man, as described by his friends and stepdaughter. He treated Miriam and Sabine the same, as he loved to take care of them both equally. Sylvia Schulze worked her way up at the supermarket until she was promoted to assistant store manager, and everyone considered her to be a reliable person. Her co-workers described her as a goal-oriented woman that knew what she wanted out of life. To the outside world, it seemed as if Marco and Sylvia had built a loving home, but the perfect life was beginning to crumble. Sylvia's older daughter, who had moved out to be on her own by then, stated that Marco Schulze was suffering from alcoholism. Right before his disappearance, the father of two had lost his driver's license due to a DUI, which meant that he was not longer able to continue his weekend job as a truck driver. Several family members and friends mentioned Sylvia Schulze's intentions of filing for divorce from her husband. There are also talks of an argument where Marcus threatened suicide if his wife pursued a separation. The police was unable to confirm the divorce rumors, but the possibility cannot be eliminated. One indicator for this possibility being true is the fact that some people in their orbit stated that they were acting differently right before they disappeared, much like something was bothering them. On July 25th, Miriam was supposed to go on a horseback riding trip, which she was extremely excited about. Marco was generally pretty involved in his daughter's hobby. After all, he even helped out at the stables in order to pay for his daughter's lessons. Right before the vacation was supposed to start, the 12-year-old girl told a friend that she wasn't sure if the trip could happen anymore. Where did those doubts suddenly come from? Did the family plan the disappearance beforehand? The parents also booked a solo trip to Mexico for the same summer, which they never got to take. On the day of the disappearance, July 22, 2015, Miriam's mother called the school and reported that her daughter was going to be out sick that day. In fact, she had already been out of school for the entire week leading up to that day. Supposedly, she was having a reoccurring stomachache and was going to see the doctor that day. The 12-year-old never makes it to the appointment though, and the last time anyone hears of Miriam Schulze is a WhatsApp message to a friend. Sylvia Schulze goes to work that day as usual, but winds up receiving a text message from her husband around 1:45 p.m. saying that Miriam was getting worse and that she needed to come home. Around 4:20 p.m., her co-workers recall that Sylvia leaves her place of employment. She gets to her house at 4:50 p.m. This is confirmed by the timestamp from her home Wi-Fi. Marco Schulze was off on the day of the disappearance and stayed home, taking care of their sick daughter. At 5:30 p.m., the owner of the stables calls Marco and asks if he could help out on the following day, as was a common request. The owner noticed that Marco is acting strange and hesitates to agree to coming in the next day. Around 7 p.m., Sylvia's father tries to call the house to inquire about his granddaughter's condition, but nobody answers. At 7:33 p.m., Marco calls back and tells his father-in-law that Miriam is not doing much better. He states that Sylvia laid down in bed with her and fell asleep together with their daughter. Her father is surprised that his daughter is sleeping so early, but doesn't get suspicious since according to him, Marco is acting normal. Around 7:30, witnesses claim to have seen Marco Schulze at the stables where he helped out at. The last sighting of the man is in the morning of July 23rd around 7:30 a.m. He drives his wife's car on a road in Stove along the Elbe River going towards Drage. That is rather strange because he's not driving to his workplace but instead in the direction of his house. Ever since then, the entire family has vanished without a trace. After Sylvia Schulze does not show up for work and cannot be reached by phone, her co-workers get worried and notify the police. It is uncommon for Sylvia to miss work without calling, and she usually can always be reached on a phone. It doesn't take long for the investigators to find out that Marco Schulze has not been showing up for work either, so they gain entrance to the family's house. In the meantime, the older daughter Sabine has been notified about her family's disappearance. The Schulze's residence seems normal. There's no sign of a crime, a break-in or a struggle. The policemen find wallets, passports, keys and the 2 family cats in the shed. The 2 cars are also parked in the garage. No suicide note, no traces of blood, no signs of destruction. The family is simply gone. The only thing they appear to have taken is Miriam's favorite stuffed animals and Marco's green bike. The bike resurfaces on July 30th at the train station in the neighboring city Winsen, but without any further clues. The police find the cell phones of the missing family members at the house as well. They are turned off. The last time Sylvia Schulze's cell phone was connected to the Wi-Fi at home was July 22nd at 4:50 p.m. The theory of a spontaneous family trip is starting to become more and more unlikely. A special task force searches the town of Drage and the surrounding area, but without any luck. Friends and family are not ready to give up yet and organize smaller searches in the neighboring towns as well as rivers and lakes. But nothing. No helicopters, no tracking dogs, no divers, no boats are able to uncover any further clues regarding the whereabouts of the missing family. Slowly hope is fading. On July 27th, the police ask the public for help. They make clear that they are willing to follow up on every lead. Even leads generated by so-called psychics and amateur detectives are pursued. Every clue is taken seriously, but the Schulze family remains missing. Sylvia Schulze's older daughter and other family members have new hope when the case makes it to the popular TV show Aktenzeichen XY on August 12th. But even after that, there are no new developments. About 1 year after the disappearance, on June 19th, 2016, the case is featured on another show. But nothing had changed throughout the last 12 months. The Schulze task force is getting smaller and smaller over time, until it is finally completely dissolved in March 2016. In December of the following year, several items of clothing are located on the property that belongs to the Schulzes, but DNA results are not conclusive and can therefore not be matched to either of the family members. Nine days after the disappearance, there's the first hot lead that gives the investigators hope. On July 31st, 2015, a resident of Lauenburg places a call to the police. On a hike close to the Elbe Bridge, the woman discovered a body floating in the water. The coroner's office confirmed the suspicions. The lifeless male body is identified as Marco Schulze. Tied to the body with straps is a block of concrete meant to keep it anchored down at the bottom of the river, and Marco is wearing work gloves. The concrete block can be matched to a construction site near the bridge. The autopsy identifies the cause of death as drowning, and there's no indication of foul play. The time of death was narrowed down to the night of July 23rd going into 24th. Below the bridge, the police also located a woman's bike that has the same straps tied to it that were also found on Marco's body. Later, this bike was tied to the Schulze's family as well. The location where Marco Schulze's body was found is located about 20 to 25 kilometers up the river from the family home. There was no evidence pointing to the whereabouts of Mother Sylvia or daughter Miriam. The two are still considered missing persons. After finding Marco's body, the police believed that a murder-suicide is likely. The father likely killed his wife and daughter first and then took his own life. But where are Sylvia and Miriam Schulze's bodies? The case is still treated as a missing person case due to the fact that the deceased man cannot be investigated for murder. The police is certain that this case is a murder-suicide, but yet there are plenty of unanswered questions and inconsistencies. What was the motive? Why would Marco murder his wife and his young daughter? What are the events that made this loving father snap? There's no real proof that Sylvia was in fact pursuing a divorce, but this possibility also cannot be excluded. The family also didn't face any financial hardship. So what are the events that led to Marco Schulze committing such a heinous crime? Experts don't believe in a crime of passion because the murder was planned too well in advance. Adelheid Kastner, a licensed psychologist from Linz, describes Schulze's behavior as uncharacteristic and unusual. Normally, murder-suicides happen out of a long-term depression, paired with the fear of leaving vulnerable family members such as children behind by themselves. But why murder your own wife then? The psychologist is convinced that this was a murder-suicide. Sylvia Schulze likely decided to initiate a divorce and Marco refused to accept this and took matters in his own hands. She was not going to leave him as long as he had something to say about it, and he succeeded. As a consequence for himself, he then wound up taking his own life. This theory meant that the separation was a long time in the making, for the simple fact that the killing appeared to have been planned way in advance with no bodies found even years later. That is something that Marco came up with in the heat of the moment. With crimes of passion, emotions run so high that the killer is in an altered, confused state of mind. There is no way that he had his thoughts together enough to make body and evidence disappear in this extent. Sylvia's older daughter Sabine feels the same way and is convinced that Marco used chemicals to dispose of the bodies. He would have had access to that due to his job at the chemical plant. Even the police followed up on this lead. The inventory at the plant was verified and no missing substances could be identified. In August, the authorities were contacted by another witness. She stated that she saw the family on July 22nd after 6 p.m. at the pond in Holmseppensen, 50 kilometers from where the body was found. The witness claimed to have overheard screams and arguing between Marco and Sylvia. Miriam could also be heard. "What are you doing? Are you crazy? Daddy, stop! Stop it!" Afterwards, a loud bang rang out. The area was searched by police using tracking dogs, and the animals actually caught the family's trail, but it led into the water and only Marco's trail led away from it, indicating that he left by himself. Does that mean the pond is the crime scene? Were Sylvia and Miriam Schulze killed there by their own husband and father? The police is unable to eliminate this possibility, but it's also possible that the scent trail just lost their intensity due to the amount of time that had passed. Additionally, this pond is a popular destination for hikers and joggers. That makes it difficult to commit a double murder without witnesses. Going back and forth to and from the pond in Zeppen would have cost Marco an hour and a half. When reconstructing this timeline, one thing stands out. Marco only had 30 minutes to make the victims, plus any evidence, disappear after murdering them. Even the police agrees this hardly seems long enough, but despite of doubts, this is still the official conclusion. It means that committing double murder under these circumstances is extremely difficult, but not impossible. Within the community of Drage, the voice that claimed Sylvia was going to leave her husband got louder and louder, and many claimed that the family dynamic had noticeably changed. Let's just assume that Sylvia did in fact want a divorce and made her husband aware of it. Which husband likes to hear news like these, especially if the desire to call it quits is one-sided? Even before that, Marco has threatened suicide during an argument, according to some friends. This could lead to a concerned mother to get up and leave her husband in the middle of the night. The principal of the daughter's school stated that Miriam's mother showed up in school one day prior to the disappearance to empty out the girl's locker. If she really did manage to get away from Marco unnoticed and leave her old life behind to start a new one together with her daughter, then what? Marco comes home, finds his family gone together with all of their belongings and comes to grips with what just happened. He understands that they have left him for good and loses hope. His will to live is gone. The desperation may have driven him to believing that taking his life is the only way out. So Marco goes over to the Elb Bridge, weights his body down with a concrete block and dives to his death. If this is how it happened, the only thing left to ask is where Sylvia and Miriam Schulze are today. They left their passports and money at home. How far could they have gotten this way? Is it really that easy to settle down somewhere in another country? There is no proof that they did, but in fact, the body of the two missing women also have not been located. The investigation appeared to be closed once Marco Schulze's body had been found, and with it a plausible explanation of what may have happened. But there are questions that are open still. Why had Miriam been missing from school for that long prior to the disappearance? And why did she tell her friend that she felt like she could not longer go on the vacation on the pony farm? Also, something about the Mexico vacation doesn't seem to add up. Why would you book such a vacation if you were having marital problems? Could that have been part of a well thought out plan? Was Sylvia trying to lull her husband into a false sense of security? Despite of all speculations, the motive is still open. As far as the double murder is concerned, as well as the mysterious escape of the mother, and the biggest mystery to this day is the question of where the two missing females are located. There is a reason why this case is one of the most mysterious cases of our time. Maybe Marco did in fact, as the authorities believe, kill his family first before taking his own life. Or maybe Sylvia and Miriam Schulze are still alive and built a new life somewhere aboard, which ultimately was the reason that drove Marco Schulze into suicide. Fact is that Marco instilled confusion, fear and doubts into the community, which is quite a strange act of killing himself. What exactly happened that fateful day on July 22, 2015, we may never find out. But even today, 6 years after their disappearance, there is still no trace of Sylvia Schulze and her daughter. But what remains is grief, sorrow and still a tad bit of hope for those who were left behind in this tragedy. Because hope lives on until there's a concrete evidence of the whereabouts of the missing females. If you liked the video, please give us a like, leave a comment or subscribe. You would really support our channel greatly with that. We really appreciate it, and also thank you for watching. Have a good night and see you next time.